Hello, everybody, and welcome to WCNC Plus on the Pitch, emanating here from our WCNC Plus Impact News Studio at WCNC Charlotte. I'm your host, Sports Director Nick Carboni, and maybe what Charlotte FC needed was a trip back home. They're going to get that and play on their home pitch Saturday night, 7:30 against Austin. On that call for MLS on Apple TV is Devon Kerr. He joins us. Devon, we were just chatting. We're going to give you some South Florida weather up here so you feel comfortable.
Fingers crossed. I also peeked at the radar. Fingers crossed I don't bring some of that rain with me that sometimes gets to sunny South Florida. But, yeah, it should be a great match. Two fun teams, and early on in the season, kind of anything goes, if you will.
Let's start with the location because it's been a rough go here through just two matches for Charlotte. The draw at St. Louis, which walk away with a point, and then getting shut out at LA Galaxy. Is kind of that home cooking what this club in particular strongly desires? Could that give them a little bit of a boost?
Could. It's funny because as analysts we're supposed to speak in definitives, right? And we don't say maybe or this could. But certainly for a team that, yeah, they got the point, but they struggled in the match. You know, 2 games so far under Dean Smith, and whether it's injuries picked up, Ashley Westwood had the sickness that he had to work through, new faces within the lineup. They're working through it right now. So coming home, getting a little bit of that local flavor is certainly something that the doctor ordered. I actually had the opportunity to speak to Dean Smith earlier today, and head coach of Charlotte FC said, listen, one of my favorite things here that I didn't anticipate, that is very difficult to tell people what it's like unless they've experienced it in person, is right before the whistle, the turn, everybody embraces, Pepas comes on, and the place goes nuts. It's one of the coolest things in sports, in my opinion, certainly when it comes to MLS in this country. And those are the types of moments that, whether at the beginning or throughout a match, that home cooking can help propel you to a solid result.
And we spoke to Dean today, and he said, listen, we're not hitting the panic button yet, of course. I mean, it's 2 matches. What is concerning about the way this team has played through 2 matches? What are some things you're pretty sure Charlotte FC can rectify pretty quickly?
The list is long, unfortunately, in terms of concern. You know, number one, I would say that there has to be more ambition, more aggression. I hate when people speak in generalities, but you got to want to be on the field. And in the 180 minutes that we've seen so far, that hasn't exactly been the case. So accountability is certainly going to be a conversation in that dressing room. Who's going to wear the shirt? Who's going to step up? Especially, as you alluded to, coming home in front of the fans. They're going to be a little bit more pride involved this time around. Now, I would say that defensively, I would expect them to be a little bit more tailored. That's twofold. I expect them to be more organized, sit back a little bit more. Number one, they need to. They overexpose themselves in turnovers way too many times in the first 2 matches. But number two, that's also something that Austin struggled with, especially against DC United. They can play in the open field of play. They can work side to side, and they can do it quickly. But Nico Estevez's team, and he's been very vocal about it, they've struggled when they've had to break teams down lower. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Charlotte tailor their actions defensively a little bit further back. And attacking-wise, you've got to be more creative. You have to be willing to go for it. 30 yards and in, too predictable. Very easy for defensive squads to just step up and parry them aside.
Yeah, that last week's kick was 10:30 our time. I know a lot of supporters were up to watch, but I'm not sure how long they did after that absolute chaotic 6, 7, 8 minutes where LA Galaxy just poured it on. I mean, do you think this is the right personnel on the back line? Is it tactical? It was one match, but that really jumped off the page.
It's early, I would say. You know, you said, is it time to hit the panic button 2 matches in? It's way too early to start posturing and say, this isn't working. Now, did things go wrong? Absolutely. I mentioned ambition for sure. I think in terms of positioning from the outside backs, I don't have an issue with exactly where they were at times. Decision-making overall certainly plagued the team. That's something that's very coachable. That's not an opponent thing where it comes in and say, oh, well, we got this wrong against them and they did this. No, Nathan Byrne at times just coughed the ball into the corner when he could have stepped on it. He could have tried to find a way to work through the midfield. Same on the opposite side with Harry Toffolo and his ability to create link-up play with Wilfried Zaha, and instead just putting Wilfried Zaha in one-on-one situations. Now, I personally think Wilfried Zaha is under a microscope and everybody chases him, puts too much pressure on him. I'd like to see Wilfried Zaha be more selfish. I think it takes pressure off them defensively, and I think he has the ability, both from a tactical standpoint, but emotionally, to change a game. And because he's challenged so often and too much pressure is put on him, I think if he unleashes here, it's really going to make things a lot smoother across the board for this Charlotte team.
Yeah, and you talk about that front third. I mean, outshot 14-4 at LA. They've got 4 shots on target all season so far. You called it predictable. Is that part of the predictability is what they're doing with Zaha, or does it lay elsewhere?
It's all over. So, I mentioned the left side for sure, but if you're working down the right side, doesn't really matter who's over there. Certainly Kerwin Vargas within the last match, we can see him play on both sides. It is very much A to B to C. If your opponent and you're scouting it, you keep the game in front of you. It's going to come off the back line to the right back. They're going to try and pick out the 6 in the midfield, or they're going to work 5 yards away to the right midfielder. That can't be that way all the time. So things that I would like to see differently to work the front line into more aggressive positions and to give them more confidence, start pinging more long balls, 30, 40 yards, stretch the field. Make the opponent figure out that you're going to be less predictable. Now, people are going to say, okay, well, it's a 40-yard ball, and they're going to see that coming. Yes, but when you're playing 2 or 3 passes, and now you're playing 5 in terms of options, that makes it a lot more difficult as a defender. I'm a former center back. If I'm understanding that most of the passages of play are going to be right in front of me, and then all of a sudden you whip one over my shoulder, now I've got a cause for concern. So Idan Toklamati can open up his movements. Pep Biel can start to wander the field more. And certainly down in the wings, it will open up more space eventually.
Kalina put in tough spots 3 times there very quickly. Had a near brilliant game at St. Louis and really saved the point for them. He had a down year last year compared to the insane year he had the prior year. And there were people brought in behind him last year. It was an interesting season for the goalkeeper of the year from the year before. What have you seen from him in 2 matches as he continues to hope to be that solid, consistent presence for this club back there?
Understanding that the bar hasn't exactly been high for any player on the field for Charlotte FC this season, he's been the most efficient, I'll tell you that much. He was put in really bad spots, to your point, in the Galaxy game, all 3 of which he couldn't do anything about. Go back to last season, you called it a down year. I would agree with you. One of the things that people forget, though, is that these relationships exist for a reason. And it's really easy to look and go, oh, it's a 4-2-3-1, and Zaha's over there, and so-and-so's over there. That back line had a rotating cast of characters. Left back was an absolute mess last season. They thought they had their answer in Solian Doumbia. Then Tofolo comes in. There's a lot of players at the center back position. Tuiloma was involved. Right back was hurt. I say relationships because the predictability aspect that I said was bad on attack going forward is exactly what you want as a goalkeeper or defender on that back line. Knowing exactly what the tendency of the player next to you is going to be on your team, that's everything. He didn't have that on a regular basis last year, and his guys in front of him are struggling earlier this season. He's excellent at communication. He's got decent distribution coming off the back line. He can hit you in transition, and he's confident. He's going to tell you when something's wrong. So I understand that the results for the team haven't been great overall this year, but certainly the ambition of the goalkeeper and his capability are not to be questioned.
All right, what are the keys to the match against Austin? We're going to ask Devon Kerr that next here on WCNC Plus on the Pitch. Welcome back to WCNC Plus on the Pitch. A reminder, we do this every Friday night at 9 o'clock, leading into big weekend matches for Charlotte FC. Big one, first home match. Of course, on Apple TV, Devon Kerr is the match analyst for this game. Devon, what always excites you about coming to Charlotte FC? You talked about the Pepas and all of that, but in general, what have you seen? How have you seen this club and this fan base kind of grow and thrive in the league so far?
For me, it starts with people, right? And this isn't like a random quote that I pulled off of a bathroom stall. I say it's from people because I get an opportunity, and I'm blessed that I get to travel all around the country. I don't sugarcoat things, like it or hate it, whatever it may be. The people in Charlotte are incredible. I spent a lot of time there as a youth player, doing battle with Charlotte soccer. The first time that I came to town in 2023 when MLS rolled its Apple package out, it was the only time, even as we're talking now, that I've looked around and gone, man, I could see myself moving here. I know players within the academy. I have relationships with players, front office staff, every single person at every level within the club. And then when you branch out into the community, the dining, the activities, the people are incredible, which is what makes the passion and game day experience so much enjoyable at the bank.
We would love to have you, Devin. I know you like that warm weather. We're going to have it for you this weekend, but I won't tell you what happened here a couple of weeks ago. 11 inches of snow. That may put you back down in Florida. But what are your thoughts on Charlotte FC's advantages against Austin, and perhaps vice versa, Austin's advantages coming in?
Let's start with Charlotte's advantages, because everybody looks at the back line and the goals that they've given up and the defensive transitions, rightfully so. You need to hone in on the things that you struggled with. I would say that there were some looks going forward that weren't terrible. Now, people may look at that and go, that's a glass half empty, not terrible. I look at it as glass half full because of the way that Austin plays. They're adventurous. They're aggressive on the width. They will expose themselves, whether it's Biro at the left back position or John Gallagher at right back. They're going to play high. They are going to give you real estate to step into. So that tempered expectation that we referenced in our first conversation defensively, if you can maintain your organization, communicate properly, the space is going to be there on the width to step out quite nicely. So I really like that area. Another area which is very interesting for Austin, and I'll get to how it works for them, but we're going to start with how it works against them for Charlotte FC, is attacking-wise. Now, Brendan Vasquez is still injured, so Uzuni is playing in this makeshift 9 position. That's not his normal position. Neither is the 10 spot for Facu Torres. So you've seen a front line that is very linear in nature. They haven't created a lot of link-up play within their 2 holding midfielders. So because of that, Ilie Sanchez and Danny Pereira have to cover a lot of ground. That leaves a lot of space centrally for Pep Biel to operate within. If you transition to Austin, okay, so you've got that front four that they want to play with speed. They do well out on the width. They don't have a lot in combination play centrally, so you can squeeze the field and make them feel uncomfortable, but that's also where they come in at their best. The tighter you become, the more you open yourself up on the width. They have been near perfect out on the outside. Great distribution, and the last one for Austin has to be set pieces. Yes, they've scored twice in their first 2 games, but the amount of contact and chaos that they've created in the box, it's predictable running through it with Dean Smith. You can see exactly how they're going to hit you, but it's a passion that they're going to find a way to get to the spot they want to be at. Set pieces have been perfect so far for Austin to start the season.
And this is their first road match, not to be, that's another little wrinkle into this. Want to zoom out here with Devon Kerr, match analyst for MLS on Apple TV Saturday night, Charlotte FC hosting Austin. I don't know how many weeks I can get away with asking our guests this, but it was such a range of predictions for Charlotte FC and where they would finish in the East, all the way from 2 to 9th, which coincidentally is where they are now. I'm not going to ask you where you may have had them, but looking at the way this team is constructed, looking at the way they've played the first 2 matches, why do you think that range is there, and where do you think they could ultimately fit into the Eastern Conference at the end of the season?
I heard Keith Costigan last week and this question, and he's right. When predictions come around, my phone goes straight to voicemail. I recognize kind of that don't mess around where you eat, so to say. I talked about the great people. I'm not going to upset them. Listen, when you look at the teams that are regularly battling for an MLS Cup spot, and some it's more difficult to argue because San Diego's only in its 2nd year, right? St. Louis is in its 4th year. So you can't compare that to that of an LAFC, or you go further back as Seattle Sounders. But those teams that I'm referencing have depth. And I don't really see that in terms of overall consistency for Charlotte. They're doing a great job of bringing in some big names, but if Wilfred Zaha can't get it done, the next man up isn't exactly winning any popularity contest. That's not to say that they can't find a rhythm. We saw that at the end of 2025 where a star goes down, Pep Biel due to injury, and the team steps up. They went on a beautiful run to push themselves into one of those higher up positions in the Eastern Conference. Depth is the overall conversation. I still believe that this is a playoff team, and I do believe in the scouting department that has done right by these fans over the past 18 months. It didn't start well, but it feels like they've turned a corner. They've done good business sending players out. Now they need to take that money, really make it work to their advantage, albeit navigating the salary cap that goes on in MLS, and find a way to create more depth within this team if they want to be a perennial contender.
All right, future Charlotte resident Devon Kerr, thanks for joining us, man. You're the best, and hope to have you on again this season. Good luck on the call Saturday. We'll be watching.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for keeping the snow out of it in March.
Yeah, we hope to keep it away for a long time. 18 years since the last time we had that much. We can go without it for another 20. Thanks, Devon. Welcome back to WCNC Plus on the Pitch. Just had a great conversation with match analyst for MLS on Apple TV, Devon Kerr, who's coming into town to do the game. Charlotte FC hosting Austin on Saturday night. We also had a very special interview this week as our Danielle Stein sat down with MLS legend and now analyst Taylor Twellman at Bank of America Stadium. Of course, the big non-match news this week was that the MLS All-Stars, when they play the All-Star match here in Charlotte, will take on the All-Stars of Liga MX. So we've got a great sit-down between Danielle and Taylor, and we'll see you on the other side.
Taylor, it's been just a couple months since we were here when they announced the MLS All-Star Game would be coming to Charlotte. We now know a little bit more about the details. Just from your perspective, how much anticipation is it getting as we're underway in the season and things are kind of in motion for what another year of the All-Star Game could be like?
I love it. I mean, we're 100 days from the World Cup. And so I think what's very interesting for me is that Charlotte will have a spotlight on it 10 days after the World Cup final. And the entire world's attention is going to be on this country. And there's going to be a real energy, a real belief. And then MLS and Liga MX with the All-Star Game, those stars coming together 10 days after the World Cup final. You kind of tap into that. Charlotte will deliver. This place will deliver. It always does. I just think it's cool for the ownership and the fan base that they get to be put under a spotlight, because for those of us that have been coming here and seeing it, this place is really, really good.
It's going to be the summer of soccer.
No doubt.
The World Cup coming, of course, Charlotte is not going to be a host city, but getting a major event just afterwards where there could be a lot of fans from around the world still here, and maybe they want to see their favorite players who are coming from playing with their teams to playing with their clubs. What kind of international expectations would you have that this could be bringing in terms of fans from around the world?
Yeah, I just think it's important that everyone understands the MLS All-Star Game has a real edge to it because of the U.S.-Mexico rivalry, MLS Liga MX rivalry, and so you throw in 50-plus players, 25, 26 from MLS, 26 from Liga MX, you get star power, but you also tap into that rivalry. Both leagues are competing to be the number one league in this continent. And so the international attention comes in naturally because you got players like Lionel Messi playing in this league, Thomas Muller, and others, but you also got Liga MX players that are coming here and showing themselves. So they help each other grow. That rivalry's been very fruitful for both leagues and I think for both countries, and I think the MLS All-Star Game just taps into that.
The All-Star Game has changed formats a couple of times over the years, but
I've played in many of those.
Yeah, and they've been now in the past 5 or so years been really sticking with this MLS against Liga MX. Why has this kind of been working, would you say, compared to East versus West or playing against another club from another league?
The number one most watched soccer league in the United States of America is not the English Premier League, it's not the Champions League, it's Liga MX.
Wow.
And so when you talk about the Liga MX fan now being interested in Major League Soccer, because you always want to know what your rival's doing, that's how you grow this league, that's how you grow it very quickly. Liga MX are spending over $75 to $125 million to buy MLS players. That would have never happened 5-6 years ago. So I think it's more important to tap into your local fan base, to the people that are watching the respective leagues in both countries versus the Arsenals that are coming over in the middle of their preseason.
Sure.
Those are fun. I've played in those. I've been part of those. I was an MVP against Fulham. I've done all of that. But I think really to grow this league and to be the number one league on the continent, you got to showcase what Liga MX is doing, and Liga MX needs to know what you're doing, and that's why I think for the last 5-6 years, that's why that MLS All-Star Game has been that.
First time in the city of Charlotte, and actually there have not been any All-Stars from Charlotte FC since they have started.
I'm willing to bet, because the game's going to be played here, there will be one.
So my question would be to you, who would you guess from this current roster right now has the best chance of being named an All-Star?
I think Pep Biel is a special player. I really do. I think he's the player, when I talk to the opposing coaches in MLS, he's brought up the most. He's talked about the most. However, I think Kalina could maybe chip into that, because Kalina's performance against St. Louis City in opening game of the season, St. Louis City should have won the game. He made 2 or 3 really, really good saves. I would say right now on the roster, those would be the two players that I would single out.
It's so funny because he actually had 10 saves
Exactly.
in that match, but Dean was even like, no, I'm going to call it 2 or 3 as well, too. But they were some miraculous saves. I was going to say Kalina as well for my answer to that. But the city of Charlotte is really excited to be welcoming their team back this coming weekend as well, too. They had their first 2 road matches, and then they're going to have 5 straight. The city is buzzing for this team right now. What have you noticed just from a grand scheme of MLS of how the league is embracing Charlotte FC?
I just think Charlotte has found their place very quickly. They've done a great job of putting the city on the map. I think some MLS cities are surprised. I wasn't really surprised. You got to remember, I'm an ACC kid from University of Maryland at a time when, you and I saw the rivalries and we knew what Charlotte, North Carolina was all about, sports fans-wise. I think Charlotte's put itself on a map with other cities. Now, in saying that, they've got to win these games. Sure. Charlotte has to understand home field advantage for them is real. They've got to take advantage of it. They have not started the season well. They know that. Austin this weekend, messy Miami, 5 games at home. I think after the 5 games, you and I could probably have a better understanding of who Charlotte's going to be. And if they win 4 of 5 or 5 of 5, now we're talking about a team that can really compete in the East. But the first 2 games was as indifferent as any team that I've seen. I didn't expect that from Charlotte, and unfortunately, those are the games we got.
Yeah, they've even said, though, they're not hitting the panic button just yet. The sample size is still small, and they're going to really hope to show who they are in the next couple of matches. But you mentioned the name that is the money man of MLS, which is Lionel Messi, a couple times now. The Messi effect is real. Wherever he goes, tickets are flying. And that could be the case, of course, if it's an all-star game. I know he's been named and voted to the all-star game, but hasn't always played in past seasons. Are you surprised at all that, a couple years into his MLS tenure, the hype is still as real as it is?
Listen, I took my 2 girls to Taylor Swift, okay? And I saw the Taylor Swift effect in the city, and it was unlike anything I've seen. Lionel Messi's tenfold. And it's remarkable to me that, Miami's stadium now, they're opening a new stadium, it seats 20,000 people. There's 5,000 people in the parking lot that just want to be part of it. He's already been there for 2 years. So, but he is the greatest of all time. And I say this to the older sports fan. If Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Pelé, Wayne Gretzky, these guys were still playing, you'd still go see them.
Sure.
Right? For Miami, which is a very weird and odd and different sports town, Messi, ironically, is resonating every week there.
Yeah.
LeBron James, D. Wade did not. That may be the bigger surprise to me. Not the global impact, because he is the greatest of all time.
Sure.
But in Miami, a fickle sports town where there's a million things to do, Messi resonates every single time. And that should tell you a lot about how he resonates within the community.
It's just so crazy when you see the away matches, and sometimes he maybe is not even going to be playing. They don't announce that until a couple days, of course, before a game, and how some teams have responded. I'm
glad you brought that up. I'm going to interrupt you real
Please.
quick, because what has surprised me is how many people are now booing him, and I love it. Initially, it was pink jerseys, but when he comes here on May 14th, I can promise you this, there'll be 33,000 in the building or whatever the number is. 95% are going to boo him because they're here for Charlotte. That, in my point of view, that's the real growth of MLS. It's not an exhibition anymore. He is a Miami player, and we hate Miami in those respects. So the away games have changed, and it's been way more fun, right? Orlando City fans, if you didn't see the picture, are saluting him with one certain finger. I love that. That's what it should be, because he's a competing player for an opposing team. Boo him. That's where the growth has really shown an eye to me.
I used to work in Orlando and covered Orlando City very closely.
They showed you the finger too, or no?
No, they did not. But I was very excited to see that he finally did get to play at
Absolutely.
Interco Stadium.
It's been 3 years.
The fans have been wanting that for quite some time because that Florida derby is real and they want that. Charlotte FC does have a very special player as well in Wilfried Zaha, who they're kind of hoping would bring that same sort of effect wherever he goes in terms of, getting other teams under their skin a little bit, being that star player. What has been your impression so far of Zaha so far in Charlotte FC?
It's a great question. We want to make this abundantly clear. We're not comparing Zaha to Messi.
Absolutely not.
Right? Because Messi's got to be in a completely different stratosphere by himself, and that includes Cristiano Ronaldo, but I digress. Zaha, listen, he was solid last year.
Sure.
If I'm not mistaken, all competitions, 20 goal contributions. That's good.
Yep.
Solid. He's got no goals, no assists, or he's got one assist this year, right? He's got the technical director saying they want goals and assists. He missed the first playoff game. Why?
Red cards.
So there's good and there's bad with him. He's as electrifying as any player I've ever seen with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
Charlotte need him to do that for 90 minutes, and that's what they need to do. I think this summer's massive for Charlotte FC because they potentially could have 2 designated player spots open. The World Cup's going to just end. The transfer window opens. They've got an owner that believes in this, will spend real money. I think Charlotte's one of the teams to watch post-World Cup. I think whatever they do now with whatever players they have, I think it's going to look like a different team after the World Cup, and that should excite Charlotte fans because that may be the difference on how to get them into that upper stratosphere of Inter Miami and LAFC.
Always great stuff from Taylor. By the way, Danielle has a sit-down with Charlotte FC star Pep Biel that you can watch on WCNC Plus as well to get you ready for Charlotte FC, Austin FC, the home opener Saturday night at 7:30. And we will see you back here next Friday night for WCNC Plus on the pitch. We've got Willie and Anna who call the Charlotte FC games for the radio cast. They're going to be with us next week. We'll see you then.